We're live. Hello, everyone. It's VOD review time. We have 2 new VODs. Also, Suki's here. Welcome, Suki.
Hello.
We have VODs from 2 varsity players, which I'm excited about. So we're gonna get them added in here. First one is Pancake. And we got a match history that I'm just gonna copy in here real quick. Control V. Wrong. How did this happen? How did this happen? Please hold, everybody. There we go. A weird Control V out of somewhere. There we go. Plat 1. Support main. Alright. And based on what I am seeing in both Spoon's match history and Pancake's match history, I think that this is accurate. Because it looks pretty consistent. I'll share my screen with you. That's going to be pretty important, huh?
Yeah.
There we go. Alright, you should be able to see match history now.
Yep.
Looks like we had a rough day, but it looks like this is what consistency looks like, everybody. It's like
Yeah.
generally taking Sundays off and the majority of Saturdays. That's good. I know that you guys play a lot during the week, so
Yeah.
these rank games have been rough, though. You gotta get these
Yeah.
worked out a little bit. All right, and we're reviewing Lux. Make this full screen. Get started. Pull
I will
myself up a
say
notepad.
it is important to note that website does not show. Sorry, that website includes any queue. So although the
Yeah.
consistency of playing the game is good, the consistency of playing solo queue is not great. He only has 48 games played this season.
How long has season been going? Couple months now, right?
I think it started in when did season 13? Was January 10th.
Got it. So it
So
has been a while.
So yeah, he's played about one game a day, maybe.
Yeah, and just for everybody's perspective, that is not outside of what I kind of expect from varsity players, because I know that y'all have practices basically every night or a match.
Yep.
I don't, I'm not expecting y'all to be playing 3 rank games, go to all your classes, do all your practices, try to have some time outside, right? And I want to make sure you guys are balancing a little bit. So that is pretty on track as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we want to try to get the consistency of the wins up. That's where we're at. Okay. Before we get into anything, matchups, runes, and masteries, any particular thoughts here? It was a bully lane,
So
right?
yeah. Um. So this lane, Varus Lux is definitely winning. Um. Caitlyn. Caitlyn and Bard's an okay lane. Bard is very abusable in the lane. Um. I would say everything's okay as far as I can tell. Outside of, I probably would have went barrier on Lux here. You're never going to be in range to use Ignite or Exhaust. If you are, you're probably dead. Things like Maokai WQ, Annie Burst, being that close in range is when Bard's going to be able to get some damage and a Q on you potentially. So you want to be playing your range with Varus, typically looking for one shots or long range pokes. So you're realistically never going to be in range for Ignite. And the times when you are in range, Barrier is going to serve you a lot better.
Cool. All right. Good start. Let's jump to game. Standard buy, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, not much else you can do as a support.
Fix sizing a little bit. There you go, everybody. Now we can see the bottom of the screen.
Watching Interesting the jungle is very, very standard. Versus certain lanes, and Pancake knows this. For certain lanes, like all lanes, you can get a ward in the bot bush early, but Versus something like Bard, you can establish control on your own, so you don't really need to do anything fancy like that. We could just fast forward a bit until like 1:30,
Sure, yeah.
1:35.
Oh, I'm gonna ping everybody while we watch.
Fine use of E. Solid so far. Here, you should be hitting Caitlyn instead of minions. Your Caitlyn has more range than Varus, so she's going to try and abuse that on your Varus. So when she's looking to commit to an auto on Varus, you want to try and trade her with an auto, because if you're both autoing her back in that one auto, she loses, right? So don't let your Caitlyn walk up to your support for free. Even if you don't have an ability up, it can be worth it to trade the auto on her. You don't want to put yourself in a bad situation for it,
Oh,
but
no cooldowns.
yeah. Zoning away from the wave there is okay, but remember that pressure of zoning is sometimes better than using the abilities themselves. Being able to hold those abilities up and let your Varus farm for free can be a lot better than looking for the damage there. Yep, recognize the jungle timer, 3 minutes. Realistically, they should have leashed, so the jungle should be on top side instead of bot side, so you should feel okay. Especially since the enemy jungler is Maokai, they have no real way to get on you outside of a flash. So you should feel pretty confident playing aggressive here, even though you don't have a ward. You should be looking for a Q onto Caitlyn through that caster minion on the top left. About 5 seconds ago, there was an angle. You should be using your E to slow to guarantee the Q, rather than using the Q and then hoping to hit just hoping to hit it. Use the E to slow. Don't pop it. Throw the Q.
And not
Force the
even
target
not
to
even
move.
necessarily just slow, right? It's a zone tool, right? So like they'll have to walk backwards if you E out here, and then you can hit that Q because you know where they're going to be going.
Right, and it's zone tool, but yeah,
The
it's just
slow
playing to
helps, yeah.
yeah, playing to guarantees is just really important. So whenever you're using an ability, you want to play to maximize the chance that you are going to be able to hit those abilities at any given time, right? So if you have an ability that has a guaranteed slow, that's a lot easier to hit. Just go for the slow, go for the zone, whatever you want to do, and then if they show it to you, go for the Q. Then it's a lot easier to hit it on that slow target. This is good.
Got the ignite.
Yeah. Yeah. Should be it. Oh, we missed the
Oh,
auto.
yep.
Cancel this auto. That's okay. Here we should be helping to push. We should be eating the whiff. Yep. Nice. Now we should recall. So on this timer, you should know that you have a small window to look mid on a roam, because you got a huge two-wave crash off bot lane. Your Varus is going to walk back and wait for it to come back into him, and then catch the wave safely, so you have time to roam. So this could be looking on a Q mid. So in these situations, you should be looking your camera towards mid, seeing what the wave looks like. Is Anivia getting a crash off? Is Anivia low HP? Does she want to recall? Does she have kill threat? What's that lane going to look like in 15, 20 seconds when I'm going to be there?
And then further, like, had you prioritized that, you can probably scout this Bard out a little bit better. Like, had you been playing towards mid, you know where
You
he's
either block,
going, right? But
you either block him from walking up, stop him from getting that roam off,
this works too.
or you can get a pink in that pixel by going up there rather than the try. We want to be optimizing our wards, right? So we don't need to see the Maokai. Like realistically, if we see the Maokai walking into our try, we're probably dead, right? especially if he's 6, which is when that ward's going to last till. Um, so if we get a ward in Pixel or a ward near his blue, that's a lot more optimal because we see him in time to do something about it, and it's a lot less likely to get cleared, right?
Yeah, other note here, just wave management, right? Can't you just hold this?
Uh, you can hold it to build a slow stack. You can't hold it to create freeze.
Got it.
Um,
There's too many.
it needs melees.
My thought was just here, like obviously this Varus backed out, so he is kind of signaling that he wants them in there, but I just feel like,
Well,
yeah, it was a little late.
He just doesn't want to take damage.
Got it.
Because these casters will beat his ass.
Yeah.
um, it's freezes are only possible if there are melees, because the melees have to create a shield for the casters to create freeze.
Yep.
So if it's only caster minions, then it will stop the wave, but only enough to create a slow push, which can also be very good. Here we know that Dragon's up, Maokai's probably going to be playing on a bot timer. You don't really want to be up too far without a ward in that bush. So being able to keep the wave neutral rather than trying to get in a situation where it's like beyond your control and pushing way up is a lot better. So I think it's okay not to hold there. Here, if you notice, so if we want to pause.
Sure.
So this is a little advanced, but this is obviously something that Pancake Gavin knows, or a little more advanced because he's on the varsity team. This is why it's important to be introspective and to ask why. Something I always preach to anyone I talk to or coach or just have discussions with, ask yourself why. Be introspective. It's the only way you'll get it's the best way to foster growth at an advanced level of play is just to ask why to everything. It's like looping back around to when you were 4 and you asked your mom why until she wanted to leave. Like just the most frustrating thing in the world. But you have to ask yourself why. And the big thing I want to say here is there's one big stark difference in the gameplay now as comparatively to when you were in the lane before. Before, you put a very heavy priority on playing on the bottom side of the lane and pushing them out towards the top. Why are you playing top of the lane now? Something changed in the way he feels about the interaction in this lane that now he feels like he needs to play towards the top side of the lane rather than in the bushes on the bottom side.
Is it having this ward and vision here?
Nope, it's actually nothing. Nothing made him feel this way. He's just feeling this way. So it's realistically, measurably in the game, nothing has said that this is better. It is far better to play on the bot side of the lane here than it is to play on the top side. Looking for the same poke, looking for the same cues, keeping your Varus safe towards the top side of the wave where he was before, so Caitlyn can't trade autos on him, stuff like that. Still much better. If we were thinking actively and taking these things into note when we're playing the game, we would notice this, right? If I was able to pause time in this moment and ask Gavin what's changed from how you're playing before to now, he would be like, "Oh, playing topside." That's what I mean to do things with purpose. Make sure that every action in League of Legends is purposeful, because there is no purpose between playing on the top side here. It's actually this is really only opening you up to dying, because if you look at the curvature of the wall that you're standing by, Bard loves that you're standing here, right?
Yep.
It's a lot easier to hit a Q on you here than it is to hit on the bot side, especially because vision plays a role. It's also a lot easier for Maokai to look for a flash play if you're playing up on this top side, right? It's also a lot harder to check that back bush with an E to see if Maokai is going for a lane gank from this top side, right? So it's important to notice these things in this moment. Where do I want to play in the lane? Even these things that seem simple and fundamental, remember that just because something feels right or feels good does not mean it is. Because right now, what's sort of telling Gavin to play on this top side is nothing. He doesn't have a word for that bush. He doesn't have, like, he's not doing something with purpose here. His brain's kind of giving these signals that, like, I feel best, I feel safe here. Similar to that, to when Cult on Jin really liked playing in those crevices between the tower and the wall. Nothing measurably is good about that. It's really bad, actually, but it feels nice. And noticing when those things feel nice but aren't nice is really, really important high level play. End up hitting a really, really good Q.
Nice.
Yep. Just remember what tools your enemies have at their disposal. You could have just kept up with that Kate and gotten that kill and let Varys choke out the Bard. Wouldn't have had to use Flash there, which can be a game changer, right? Being able to Flash Q at level 6 or with Varys or something when you come back to this lane the next time would have been a huge advantage, but now it's down, right? You shouldn't be walking to this mid lane. She is dead. This is just a waste of time. You should be using that timer where you know where Maokai is to be getting a ward. You could have warded his blue buff, his Gromp, and that would have given you info on whether or not he's coming bot lane from mid lane or if he's going to be going towards top lane. And that's huge, right? Because if you see him, if you put that ward there early and then get a recall off right now, you'd be on timer with your Varys coming back to lane, knowing that Maokai is about to clear and then go topside, and you'd have a timer to play on bot with that flash you just used, right? So that's a big example of huge windows that we're missing. This is a lot of useless time. You're super off timer with your Varys now. You won't be back in lane at the same time to play with him, and you won't be back in time to play on a roam timer anymore. So you just sacrificed a roam timer to walk around. Going blasting wand is better there. It leaves your inventory open for a control ward if you need a fast back.
And you were like 2 gold off of it too.
If you're only going to be able to buy, like, realistically, I would have sold my pot for a control ward here. Dragons up, having a control ward is really, really important for controlling vision. The chances you're going to need the potion more than you're going to need the control ward are pretty low. Remember that we don't need vision to know where people are, right? We can make inferences. We saw the ward on the blue. We know that Maokai's on bot side. We know that Dragon's up. We don't need to walk up and risk getting Maokai altered or traded on to know that he's there. Good Q. Good focus on the Caitlyn. Nice. Oh, sad. Remember to spam ping your teammates a little earlier if you can. I don't think she moves to it either way, but
And if he was just like, nah, I'm going home.
she has 7% HP, yeah.
Oh, yeah, alright.
Here, it's really important. There's a lot of wasted time. A lot of wasted time. You need to be able to understand when plays are dead. Once the conditions are no longer met, once a play is too suboptimal, stop going for it. This happened on the mid lane realm where Anivia was dead. You didn't need to be there. Change your alternative. Like think of what your alternatives are. Think of, okay, the thing I was going to do is now bad or too inconsistent to flip. What can I do instead? You could have gotten a word on the blue earlier and then recalled and been on timer with your Varys, right? Or here, instead of chasing the Maokai for forever, you could have gone bot and pushed this wave a lot earlier and gotten this plate and then gotten a recall, and you'd be coming back to lane on a crash. But instead, you guys are going to get a recall pretty late on this plate, and it lets Caitlyn Bard shut the lane back out and gives Bard a roam timer into mid, right?
I think a note too is to think about what you lost, what you would lose if you had just done this more quickly. Like, you came through and cleared out kind of the bot side of the jungle thinking you were going to catch somebody who was still low hiding in there, and like that would have gotten you some gold. But had you just been here, you would have gotten a similar amount of gold and more XP, right?
Yeah, it would have been more XP, similar amount of gold, and you would have had a better back timer to come out and catch this wave or look for a roam mid rather than this super late timer here where the wave's already back in a neutral state and Kate's going to be allowed to show this out for free, and then Bard's going to be allowed to roam mid. Yeah, we definitely would have been level 6 here if we stayed. Or just gone back to bot lane. Don't let your ADC bait you into bad plays. You know you need to recall here. You know this is a bad timer. You should just recall. Don't let him try and convince you that a cheese play is good. We should finish our recall here. We do not have prior to walk to this. We don't know where Caitlyn is. We don't know where Annie is. None of that is lit up. I can't see because it's cut off. Do you see how much gold he has?
I actually can't see either. Hold on, let me see if I
think it's just the video.
No, video is cut off.
Yeah, it's all good. He just needs to adjust his settings.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see this black bar at the top. I think you just pulled down
he
the...
ended up buying Lost Chapters, so he had at least 600 gold. Because it should be 350 plus 80. So somewhere like 500 plus 75, yeah, like 600 gold. So what's really important to notice here is we want to make
Didn't mute Discord and just
It's
sneezed in your
okay.
ears.
It's okay. What's really important to note here is what do we have for tools, right? Well, what are we playing for? What are we planning ahead for? Your flash and your ignite are on the same timer. You had your ult up. It's pretty short cooldown, so it's fine. And you're coming back to lane, right? So think about that. Dragon's up. Everything I have is back up in about 30 seconds. What can I look for? What can I set up for in 30 seconds that will facilitate me doing something here? Here, you should just be giving solo plates to Varus and looking for a deeper ward, probably the control word in Pixel, or a control word behind their blue. It's a fine LT. Nice. Hard shove this. And then just recall. You need to be using your E before Q. I guarantee you, like this is the worst thing you do on Lux, is that every single time you use this, you're using your Q before your E. If you use your E before your Q, you don't miss the E damage. You're using your Q like a setup for your E, but if you E and then Q, you can always pop the E anyway. No matter if the Q misses or hits. So the only thing you're doing by using Q first isn't affecting your E damage at all. It's only bad for the other thing. Flashing here is bad. If you're gonna flash, you need to flash early.
Don't go to wall.
Yeah. But if you think about it, it's using flash. Like the only thing using flash there did was waste flash, because like your team came down and killed her anyway, and your ability realistically had no impact on that. And over chasing for a kill there just loses your team dragon and shutdowns. So it's important to remember, if a champion is low HP, they are essentially fundamentally dead for 20 seconds. If a champion has to recall, they are fundamentally dead. There is no difference outside of the gold you gather. So if you can chunk Caitlyn out like that without using your flash, and then walk mid and play with your team to get dragon while Caitlyn's on recall, that's 10 times better than trying to force your way into a kill and then overstepping, right? So be aware of like what the team's giving you and what it actually means, because the goal isn't kills, right? The goal is winning the game. Placing yourself in between these words like this is dangerous. I know it feels good because it feels like I'm placing myself so that both of them are like I can see both of them and I can hit, like I don't have to move at all at the turn to hit the second one, but all you're doing is putting yourself closer to an all-in play. Like if Bard has ult there, if the Maokai's there and you don't know it, any number of these things, right? Oh, like that. Putting yourself closer to him only puts you in danger. It's fine to walk up and hit the second ward. You don't need to put yourself close to it early. We should use E to give vision to Shaco here, so he knows if Maokai's trying to contest or not. Good vision. We shouldn't use control ward here. Bot tower just died, you're going to be rotating towards mid. You do not need to place control ward. Nope, we should recall here. It is not bad to recall if you don't have anything to buy. Recalling puts you on tempo with your teammates. It lets you walk somewhere where the enemy team won't know you're walking to there. Gives you a lot of advantages that aren't just buying items. If you're recalling and it's a good timer to recall, just recall. It does not matter if you can buy anything or not. So here we have a pretty huge lead, right? As Lux, in this situation because Dragon's down. There's no objectives. Bot tower's gone. Mid tower's gone. Let's just go top lane. We have nowhere else to be. The only tower left on the map is top. We should be pinging that top lane. Like ping Shaco, ping the top lane, walk there, look for a pick kill that Aatrox doesn't expect, get the tower, free up the map, free up Set to move around. Because realistically, as a support, we're not going to accomplish anything in the mid lane here, right? But the only way you guys lose is if Aatrox gets to just like keep forcing himself on Set like this.
Yep.
Recognizing what your loss condition is just as important as recognizing the win condition. Why are we contesting vision around bot side? What is there to contest around bot side? Dragon is down. Both towers are down. You do not need vision around bot side to just play safe and clear the mid as it hits your tower and play to other advantages in lanes, right? Look for picks.
Oh, Shaco.
But like if we were top lane there, it's really, really good, right? But instead we're sitting on mid lane that's not really impacting that. Okay, Bard Flash is down. We see any bot lane. Walking into top side here is really, really, really bad. You have no vision and no teammates. 2 people in your top side just died. You're essentially walking into a position that's just like a free kill for you. And you lose tower because you didn't go top lane here. So yeah, I mean, if we pause and we just think about this, in the last 2 minutes, I think like a full 2 minutes, you effectively could have been S-keyed in base. Nothing else was accomplished, which when we're talking about having a huge lead, right, that's really bad. If you think of like what metaphor do I want to go with here? Like a UFC fight. When you hit the guy on the chin and you rattle him, you don't like step back and let him regain his composure. You keep going, right? If you were watching one of those fights and he just sat there and did effectively nothing for 2 minutes, that would be considered a loss, even though you're still technically winning. So here, effectively, you could have just been in base for 2 minutes, and what that led to is Aatrox getting 2 shutdowns and a 250 gold objective bounty to the top lane going down, and the same way I was talking about trying to free up that pressure for Set to let him move around, to let him play the game, they've just done that for the Aatrox. Now that top lane is down for you instead, Aatrox can now move around the map and affect the other carries, which means he can take that gold he just got from those shutdowns and the objective bounty and the lead he's gathered and come start imposing that on the Varus you're trying to protect, on you while you're trying to ward, on Shaco while he's trying to invade, right? So this is what I believe, because I believe this game does turn into a loss. This is probably the pivotal turning point where this game turns into a loss, was this last 2 minutes. And effectively, it was entirely because you did nothing. So that's really important to realize here is thinking about what is the loss condition. Where we have the lead, our foot is on the gas, we're ahead. Not only how do I push this further, but how do they catch up? And how can I stop them from doing that?
Only question I have, the one thing that I do want to get into is how exactly should they be going about taking that top lane? Like, should they be calling Varus to go and calling off the Set and having Set roam elsewhere, or is this just like a everybody goes up there and takes down that top tower and now the map is open?
Nope, it's at best it's Shaco, but you can't communicate with teammates, right? With teammates in solo queue, it's really hard for them to listen to you or to communicate clearly.
Right.
Varus catching mid is fine. Anivia catching bot is fine. Varus catching bot and Anivia catching mid is fine. Whoever catches those waves is realistically fine. The play that should be made is you recall, you spawn, you see that mid lane tower is dead, bot lane tower is dead, dragon is down, you have no need for anything in those lanes. Your laners can just catch those waves safely. Okay, me as the support, as an individual, I'm going to walk top lane and see if this Aatrox overextends. And if we go back in this VOD, we'll actually see if you had walked top on that exact timer, you actually would have been there just as Aatrox tried to go for an all-in, and you would have killed him. Shaco would have come top like he did after Set died. You guys take tower, get a bunch of vision on the top side, maybe steal Krugs, maybe steal red, maybe roam mid and look for a flank on anyone pushing up there and capitalize on that mistake, right? It opens up this whole web of options. But yeah, pretty much Shaco doesn't even need to come. It's just
You can just
roaming
go
top
do that yourself. Okay.
Yeah, like as a solo queue player outside of coordination, if I'm ahead on Lux like this and I see an Aatrox playing like that or I see a wave like that, it's less so like a methodical macro and more like, oh, this guy's dead. Like there's like a 90% chance this guy just dies here.
Yep.
And that's why it's important. Like as a support, be watching your top laners' lanes, be watching your mid laners' lanes. Look at the wave. Is their wave crashing? Is it pushing? Is it stacking? What is their wave doing? What is that wave going to mean for them in 30 seconds? Do they have to recall? Do they need to hover? Right? Be looking for these things constantly because it is your job to cover up or capitalize on these things.
All right.
See Maokai top. We know that dragon's spawning in 2 minutes. Now would be an okay time to start looking for some vision. Okay time to start clearing some vision. We do have to be very aware of Aatrox on the bot side or where Annie may potentially be. So use E to clear bushes that you have no vision in. You should be looking for a ward down on that blue side. I would walk down and get a ward right below that blue buff there. Using a pink on the top side when you're going to be contesting dragon 130 is really bad.
Even if they need to take this rift?
They already have control of the rift.
Yeah, fair.
That pink isn't doing anything. Because you have to consider the fact that like the enemy team doesn't have a mid lane tower. So if we bounce the wave back to them, it's bouncing to their tier 2. Which means that we have vision up to their tier 2 until they clear it. Which means it's really hard for them to walk through mid and get into that bush without being seen. So that bush realistically is already controlled as long as we've walked through it. And then just using E to zone on the choke from below up, it works fine.
Reset go dragon.
Yep. We should be going dragon here, but we can see here, if you had gotten that ward on that bot side before, we'd feel a lot more confident walking up there right now. But instead, we have some wards in Pixel. We feel okay about knowing they're not on the dragon or setting up directly for it, but we don't know, is Annie on the bot side? Is Bard on the bot side? Are they moving to this dragon? Are they setting up? Do we know where they are? It's completely dark, right? We have no idea. And if we had just moved and gotten that ward on that side before, when we knew that we'd be setting up for dragon in 2 minutes, it'd be a lot easier for your team to walk into this. Use your E to clear. You should be using your E to check bushes. Make sure that Annie's not in them. Get a Warden's Bush. Play down with your team. You're walking up for no reason. You saw Annie on top side. Walking up only opens you to getting one shot. You need to be down with your team.
Target selection there too. You just full ulted Maokai.
Yeah. Use your E. You should be using your E to push them out of this choke. They shouldn't be allowed to walk through this. You don't need to be throwing your Q. You need to hold your Q to pressure them. Hold your Q so they know they can't walk in. And then just use your E like you did right there, but use it a lot more frequently. Oh man, imagine if we had
Really wish we had an ult there, yeah.
Yeah, really huge if we had R here. Annie. Oh, you like that's just the freest kill on Annie ever. She doesn't know the bushes word and she walks up into E range. That's just like the freest Annie kill in the world if you're not tunnel visioned. Just recall here. This is just a recall. There's no reason to use a ward. You're just giving the enemy team gold. Dragon is gone.
Oh.
And there's no reason to flash there either. That's really bad. The dragon is absolutely gone there. There's no way to do anything about it. You should just recall and be on timer with your team's respawns so that you can at least go get vision on Baron when they come up. Playing on the dragon there is just super flip. Because now your team's walking out into Baron side and you're down for 10 more seconds. It's going to take you at least 15 to 18 seconds to walk out there. So it's really hard to get vision. For instance, if I'm on the enemy team when that happens, if we kill you there and you use Flash like that, I'm pinging Baron. I'm spam pinging Baron. Your set's just tilted. But realistically, this doesn't happen if you're there to be on top side, right? If you're on tempo with your team, clearing for him, using E or Q to stop them from getting on him. Here, we just have to acknowledge that we don't have Prior to play on this, right? Looking for the Q on Annie is good, but there's nothing you can do. We have to acknowledge that we can't play on Baron. Don't be afraid to, like, ping back your Varus if he's doing something like that. 9 times out of 10, he's a solo queue player and he's not going to listen to you, but it's good to be in the habit of just telling him to not int, just on the off chance that he listens. We should just recall here. Please don't use any wards on the bot side. Just recall here. There's no reason to ward the bot side. Please recall. There's no reason to play on the bot side. There's nothing up. There's no way to have vision of that. There's no way to contest the vision. If they want to, they're going to walk up and clear it. It doesn't dissuade them or do anything to them. All it means is that you're using wards and wasting time where you could be recalled and moving back in with your Shaco on the Baron side. Because now Shaco's here and he wants to look for some vision, he wants to look for something, and you're just so far away. You need to be using your E to clear bushes. You need to be using your E to clear bushes. If I'm Annie, I'm killing you here every time. Like, Annie could be in any one of these, right? We haven't seen her on the map in ages. So it's okay. We got some we got some good wards into the red side. That's good. They'll probably clear them, but they're good wards. It's good. Hit the Q. Nice. You want to push this mid wave and then play on Baron. You need to be taking the initiative for calls here. If you want to win solo queue games, you have to take control of these scenarios. You need to tell your team what they can do here. So here, ping push the wave and then ping Baron. You know? Control this space. Control this game. Annie's dead. Maokai's still dead. We should be starting Baron here. Aatrox is bot lane. We should be starting Baron here. As a player, you need to be calling Baron. Your team is walking around and doing nothing. You're just entertaining them in that process. You need to be doing Baron. If we're not doing Baron, let's take the top tower. Like, we need to do something. Kills do not matter unless they are a facilitator for something. Because essentially what just happened is you got 3 picks, and you may as well not have gotten 3 picks. That gold isn't going to change the game in any super meaningful way at this stage. All you really did was just kill 3 people for nothing. Nivea's dead. Pretty sure she's actually directly synced with the Baron timer on her death timer, or really close to it, with the Dragon timer on her death timer. I mean. Don't let your teammate bait you. You need to be paying attention and backing, like, pinging back people like that. Like I said, like, I know it's frustrating when they don't listen, but, like, just optimizing your chances for winning, right? Yeah, by trying to help them, you just killed yourself. And that means you have less wave clear, less vision, less ability to poke them or keep them off or dissuade them from doing things. You know, like, even if you're going to give this dragon, you could have been using this timer where they're on dragon to go get vision around barons. They can't just immediately turn for that, right? It's really impactful for you to be alive here. They definitely can't chase in your jungle like this if you're still alive, right? Oh, Set gaming. X. Walk to the Baron. You're getting baited by your team. You're following paths and trends. You're very much so being a follower, and to win solo queue games, you need to think for yourself. This is another situation where like you essentially got lucky that Annie walked to bot side, the blue. You had no way of knowing whether or not Annie had walked top side or bot side there. You just assumed she walked bot side and walked into Baron buff without using your E to check vision or bushes. Annie could just kill you there. We should not be on this bot side. We're contesting vision for nothing. Dragon is down, Baron is up. We're walking around just like clearing things for fun. If Bard wanted to ult you here and Annie was still on the bot side, you're just dead and your team loses Baron. We're doing a lot of stuff without a purpose. We're doing a lot of stuff without thinking about why are we doing it? Why am I here? What am I accomplishing? What goal am I serving? We're just kind of walking around and doing whatever it feels like we can. And in that pursuit, we are doing nothing. You should call off this Baron. If your team's doing dumb stuff like this, call them off. Don't entertain it. Don't get in the habit of entertaining it, especially. Just leave. Don't try and help. Don't look for a pick. Don't try and help.
This set was like, you know what?
I'm ahead of.
I'm going in.
Yeah. If we had left earlier and gotten to a place where we could recall there, instead of trying to sort of like play around with the idea of helping him out, we probably would be there to catch this tier 2 wave already. And at least there to help kill this Annie. Potentially save the Varus. A little bit of lag. We're getting on. Like, this vision is pretty useless. It's not like a super bad thing to put it there. It's just, it's like a very tiny risk to walk up and put it that I mean, what's it accomplishing, right? You know that their team has to reset.
You're gonna have to re-clear that anyway, you know?
Yeah, you're gonna have to walk through here. Use your E to clear bushes. We're using a lot amount. It's okay, we get the kill. Should be putting a ward or a pink in that bush or something. Like, you were close enough to do it anyway, you may as well. Yeah. That's why it's important to use E to clear bush. There are like 7 or 8 windows she could have done that to you all game, and she finally did it, right? Really important to recognize like what your job is. What am I doing as a champion? What is my goal here? You're really not one-shotting anyone at this point, right? So your goal is to create space, to dissuade them from all-inning, and to clear waves, and to get vision down, right? To put meaningful vision down. So you need to be alive, you need to be using your ER to clear waves, so that they have less pressure. It's on a 20-second cooldown. You can literally use it every single wave. We should not be using Sweeper on this side. Dragon's up, and you guys are going to be walking to it in a second, and now you just don't have Sweeper. So now you can't clear out any vision while you're walking into this jungle. It's a really, really bad use of sweeper there. Remember to be doing things with a purpose. Every single time you do something in this game, when you place a word, when you use a sweeper, when you do absolutely anything, ask yourself, why am I doing it? Because if you ask yourself, why am I clearing this vision? Why am I using sweeper here? You wouldn't have had an answer, right? When you're using on the top side, would have been because I can kill a word for what? And don't let your team bait you.
You did
Because
eat the
again,
bush, but you found the Annie that time.
well, it's both times he's eaten the bush, he's found the Annie, and then he doesn't respect the Annie anyway.
Yeah.
But there, what happened is he just let his team bait him.
Yeah.
He needs to think for himself. Because what he's done pretty much this entire last 20 minutes is just like walk around where his team's walking around and press keys. He hasn't really planned or thought or done anything with any sort of intent. It's just sort of been mindless solo queue. Which isn't to say like, oh, you're not thinking, or like, because I know that there could be a feeling of you're telling me I'm not thinking, but I really did try really hard this game, and it feels that can feel condescending or insulting, and I don't mean it that way. I just mean I it's a lot harder in the game to think of these things. That's why we need to drill them in outside of the game, right? Advanced level players don't get to have, it's like when you get that newbie gym progress, when like someone who's never gone to the gym before starts going to the gym and they put on a lot of muscle because their body's really adapting to it. It's like that's what new players in League get to do. They get to have all those fundamentals and see all that improvement. Advanced players, you got to really drill this stuff in. It becomes a lot more conceptual. It becomes a lot more advanced, and in that regard, it can feel very droning. It can feel very drill sergeanty. It can feel very like I am trying and you're telling me I'm not trying. And it's like I understand you're trying and I understand you're putting all the thought into this, but it's because I know you're a smart player that this stuff is being drilled in this way. Is because if we pause the game for even a second, you allow yourself out of that pressured environment. If you let yourself out of that chamber inside your head and think about why am I clearing this vision, you would immediately be able to tell me that it's not what you should be doing. So you need to start being that voice for yourself. You need to start asking yourself why and being that voice in your own head, asking yourself, taking a pause, taking a breath, take yourself out of that echo chamber and ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? And realize that the answer is for no reason. And then use that as an opportunity to create a plan and to do something with purpose. We should be putting a ward in that bush at the very least. Play out. Don't let your team bait you. Use R on the Caitlyn there, not the Aatrox. Yeah. At this stage of the game, the
Baron and
gold
run it
lead
down.
is
Yeah.
at this stage of the game, the gold lead is too massive. You have no priority or ability to get any sort of vision on any part of the map, or especially keep it there. Realistically, what your job would be here to maximize your chance of winning is try and prevent them as much as you can from doing Baron. Use your E and R on cooldown to clear waves to stop them from having pressure, and hope that as you do that, your team scales well enough to either be able to take a fight later, which I don't think your comp is really capable of, honestly, or use it to put the enemy team in an awkward situation where they're like baffled at why they can't just end, like why it's so hard for them to push waves, and then use that to take advantage of a mistake they make and play on like a 4v5 or a 3v5, right? But outside of that, like if the enemy team plays smart here, it's pretty over.
Yeah, I think like from a lot of League of Legends videos, the way that this ends up, we end up finishing the VOD is we know where this is going, and our goal is to try to give recommendations and suggestions that you can bring into following games so that you prevent from getting to this point, because we don't necessarily need. I'm sure that you have enough practice in late game scenarios when you're behind at this point to know kind of what your goals are here. Let's not let you get here, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's structurally it's just sort of the way an economic based game works like this. Especially an economic game with like no no backup, right?
Yeah.
Like if you think about Valorant, if you think about like economy, if you think about Valorant, if you got absolutely no money ever for any form of loss streak or like being down at all, you like the strategy would eventually become like, how do we prevent ourselves from having zero money? Because once we hit zero money, the enemy team can just stop us from having money ever again,
Right.
right?
You at least
In
have
League,
that constant reset in that game. In League, you
right?
don't.
Yeah, in League you don't. So that's why it becomes, especially in solo queue where mistakes are very common, that's where it becomes, how do I stop this from getting here? Because it is very known, like, because obviously early on we did talk about a lot of proactive things you could have done. We talked about a lot of like what we should be doing, proactive plays, where we should be, opening up that top tower, helping set, putting ourselves in a position where we're playing to our win con, taking advantage of how strong we are, as well as dissuading their win con. But once it reaches a point where it's you're down so much gold that your team's kind of just starting to flounder, it does become much more of a you know, what can we do here?
Yep.
And there's definitely still good things to do. There are definitely some mistakes still at the end where like, yes, even though the game was pretty fundamentally over, we're still doing a lot of bad things. We're following bad calls. We're not being proactive. We're not leading our team. We're not playing around what we need to be playing around. We're not creating zone or capitalizing on vision windows. There's still a lot to learn there, but it's understandable if you're mentally checked out at that point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get some notes down. Micro and Lux, E to slow, Q to follow up.
Yeah, play for
But,
guarantees.
yep. And then the other one, utilize E more to clear bushes. In this case, it was for Annie, but it really can be for anybody.
Because there was points where it's like for Maokai, there's points where it's for Bardar. It's just play to minimize risk.
Yep. From a general perspective, I think not allowing teammates to anchor
Yeah, don't let your teammates bait you.
your perspective for plans. And then macro, identify identify forward plays and play to them. This includes warding.
I would say, capitalize on windows. Macro wise, I would like to see a lot more looking at your mid and top wave, especially in the early game, especially when you have a roam timer. Just a lot more checking their waves. Are they pushing? Are they stacking? What are your mid and top laners' waves doing, and what does that mean for them? Because that is how you will recognize windows where you can go top and help set. That's how you'll recognize windows where you can go mid and help Anivia. And that's also how you'll recognize where there's no window and you need to just accept that there's no window. You can't force it. So definitely, I would like to see a lot more looking at your mid and top waves.
Okay, cool. I think those are some good notes. Okay, so what I have actually fully written down: not allowing teammates to anchor, bait your perspective and plans. The luck stuff, obviously, we kind of went over pretty heavily there. Identify forward plays and play to them. Warding it there as opposed to where you are or clearing where you are. You find yourself doing that a lot, we noticed. And then consider mid and top as your job, because there was that one particular time in this game where if you had just gone top and supported that Aatrox, put that pressure down, this game probably would have ended up pretty different. So yeah, good. Hope that helps, Gavin. We're gonna move on to next VOD. Let me do some maintenance, clear up some notes, move ahead. It got busy in the arena in the past couple minutes. All right, we got Spoon. I'm gonna go ahead and add Spoon here. And where are we? Let me just verify real quick. Cassidin mid silver 3. Match history. Staying with a fairly small pool, it looks like. A lot of Vygar. I know that you love Vygar.
Yeah.
Yep, Vygar Kassadin. Some Swain
Looks like a
tossed in there. Couple fill games. Good.
definitely an okay amount of games.
Yep, as far as consistency goes, good. Okay, cool. Let's get into VOD. VOD starts. Do we get pregame? No, we don't get pregame at all. I don't know what our matchup is. We will see.
Rise.
Yep, there we go.
Rise Kane, Castmord. This
Oh
looks
god,
like
I accidentally jumped way forward there. Hold up.
it's okay. This looks like a game where he does pretty well. The Mundo, huge pop off in this game. We'll see.
The old Mundo ADC.
We'll see. We'll see how this goes. Definitely. Chance there's not much outside of lane to talk about in this game. Does eventually just turn into a stomp from pretty much every position, but let's see here. I would say it's probably better to start Q into this matchup. He's okay, I think, because it dissuades the auto chase, but chances are Rise is just going to auto you. Yeah, but chances are he's just going to auto you. It's probably fine just to go Q. If he tries to go for the W chase on the autos, you can get that spell shield for the W damage. And you can also sort of get these minions in the back here, like that caster you could have walked up and queued. Oh, my dog is very upset. Mute all. Good, 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 good.
I have been muted for a little bit, sorry. The only thing that I really noted was the super long cooldown on that E.
We're using the Q to get these casters.
Oh, we got Cardboard Tank making an appearance.
Okay, not bad. Force the flash. Just walk out. Just catch the wave. Nothing changes about the way you play this after that gank. All it means is that Mord can come back. We need to be queuing this cannon. Or Eing, it's fine. This is pretty bad. You need to be mid here. Don't get baited by your teammates.
Even if they are on your varsity team.
Yep. Even if the teammate is who you're queued with, you missed about 4 or 5 minions of CS there. That would have given you a level 4 advantage or close, like, 4 or 5 minions towards a level 4 advantage that you could have played on. Versus this Rise means you hit 6 earlier, means you can look on the jungle earlier, right? So you lost a lot for real. Realistically, you didn't really do anything to help Mord. He ended up getting out on his own. We shouldn't be walking to help him again. This is more minions we're losing. This is so far away. We cannot walk to this. This is really, really bad. Kassadin is a champion that really requires scaling. He really requires level 6.
Yep.
Walking to these plays and wasting so much time and missing so much XP is really bad for your champion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's relevant to think of just on perspective. Like, as you're going into a game with Kassadin, your goal is to hit 6, hit 11 power spike. Like, you have pretty specific alt-based power spikes, so trying to focus and play to those are going to be very important.
Yeah. So now we're down like 14 CS, more than that once this wave finishes. Because we moved the 2 plays that were really bad for us, right? And now we're down a level, actually, whereas you would have been up this level before. You're actually down a level, and he's able to force you out now. We should be popping a pot here. We're down 400 HP. It's fine just to pop a potion. It doesn't have a lot of kill threat on you, but popping a potion here gives you the HP back that lets you sort of play a little further up in the lane and look for a few more aggressive trades on his HP pool. We should be using Q to poke. Prioritize the cannon. Nice. You didn't need a W there, but it's okay. Use this time to set up your casters. You know which means you're going to get autoed out of the middle one. Follow those up on. Yeah, we need to be setting this up. Here, just use everything on the wave.
Yeah, you're gonna spam this.
Yeah. You need to be autoing. You need to be crashing and recalling here. We need to recall here. That ward is pretty bad. Wards like that are best when you're going to be either shoved into your tower or you're looking for roam angles and you just want to see if their mid laner has backed or not.
Control word.
Placing a ward, yeah, control word here. Placing a word like that is really bad when you're recalling because all it really does is start dying while you're not there. So you're wasting half the lifespan of your ward, right? If you come back to lane, push this out, and then place that, it's a lot better. Yeah, we definitely do need to be on control word here. We need to be setting up our minions. Looking for Q poke. Looking for some level of trade on the rise here when he's using abilities like that. You need to be trading back some level of HP. Use those windows to capitalize. You need to be poking with Q. Just use Q a lot more, honestly. Your W gives you back mana, so you don't really have to worry about going in, especially Yoke tier. So
Okay, it's probably relevant too. Like, I know that you have historically been a Vigar player for a very long time, and that you very much like Vigar. And I feel like the way that Kassadin utilizes their Q is much different than the way that Vigar does, right? Like, Vigar, you're obviously going to poke with it, and it is going to be one of your biggest tools, but you're also looking to farm the wave with your Q, so your focus is pretty different, whereas Kassadin, you're looking to farm your wave with just autos and Qs if you need to, but for the most part, you're going to be trying to keep this rise off of you and trying to trade back damage with Q.
yeah, it's a little bit of both. Both champions use it for a little bit of both. Yeah, Vagar, as long as he's able to Q the enemy champion, doesn't use it to farm because you get the same amount of stacks, right?
Yep.
But optimally, if you can do both at the same time, that's what you want to do, right? But here, as Kassadin, you just use your Q to trade back damage on the rise, gives you a magic shield that blocks some of the damage for you, and it gives some damage on him. If he continues to waste combos, you can look for a little bit more damage on trades, R, W, E, Q, ROA, things like that. Sort of just like chunk his HP, get him lower, make it so he has less of a window to play on, make him a little more hesitant to take long trades, maybe get him to an HP where it's a little more easy for Mord to come and get a gank off. These poke trades, Rise not being lower HP than he is, so like this can be the difference between winning a 2v2 if both junglers come mid, right? So it's important to be using our abilities to the extent that we're able to use them and understanding what those limits are. We need to be queuing Rise there. That was just an ability you just didn't use for some reason. You seem really hesitant to use Q as a damage ability, but you should just be using it to hit the enemy champion pretty often. If you watch a lot of high elo Kassadins, they use Q on the enemy champion close to on cooldown, like whenever they have a window. It's just free damage, blocks magic damage, so it's hard for them to trade back on you.
Actually, I think that's probably something relevant that we should do. You got any good Kassadin players off the top of your mind?
Top of my mind, not a ton. Yeah, Peck and Wolf's fine. Pure Genesis is a Kassadin player, I think. My GM challenger. I don't know if he has any videos, but you could look up his videos, his VODs.
I don't see anything. I'm just
yeah.
gonna go in here. I just want to see how this cast goes in lane, right? Different
It's a
matchup,
it's a totally
obviously,
different matchup. Yeah.
but you are obviously zoned out much more by the Rise, just from coming up and taking all these melee minions, because they don't necessarily want to come up and contest in the same way, but I just want to take a look at, what it looks like, the difference between what this Cassidon lane looks like and what the pro Cassidon lane looks like, and just in real time.
Yeah, he started W into the melee matchup because the only trades he's going to be able to go are like auto W auto.
Yep.
But he'll probably go. He might go E second to slow for some auto trades. Nope, went Q. Yeah.
Q.
Yeah, obviously Q is a lot worse in this matchup because it's just a pure magic shield.
Yeah, and
so.
Okay, well, not a great matchup to take a look at. Then let's see if we can grab another one real quick. I don't just want a guide. That's a guide. Let's see what our matchup is.
Everybody,
I don't want to listen to him.
Akali.
Say hello, YouTube. Akali, it's
Akali.
also going to be a tough one to take a look at.
It's okay. You definitely use your Q a little more.
Yeah.
It's okay. I think we can just do the VOD. If there are specifics about the champion that he's curious about or that he needs to look into, we can look into those.
Yeah. You can also just look up VODs, right?
Yeah. Look up, Chovy would be a good Cassidon to watch. He's a very consistent farmer. He understands very well how to capture those waves. See Kane. We shouldn't be walking top lane here. It's really bad to walk top lane here. There's a whole wave mid lane.
Your Mord is there. Your Mord can just go top lane, right? That's their job.
Just use the E there. Just farm with your E. You get those 2 minions and then walk up QW the caster, and you take a lot less damage from Ryze and get all 3 of those. And now you know that Ryze has no mana, right? So you can start taking some more aggressive trades. Look for RWE on him here. Yeah. Q. Keep playing on him. Why are you running from him? He has no mana. Now you're gonna have to flash to get in range. Yeah. Yeah. We don't have to run from him there, right? If we just play more confident there, then he never gets away. So we end up in a really bad situation because of that. R away, R away, R away. Yeah. Just need to be a lot cleaner with our abilities. And to understand when we have, when we have to space and when we don't, right? Realistically, we can just walk at that Ryze forever. He's not going to kill you. You stay in range for the R. If you aren't up and we flash the wall like that, you can flash follow. It's just a free kill. It's a pretty huge moment where you lost a lot of XP and a lot of potential gold because you went to that. Get the cannon, get the cannon. We need to be prioritizing cannons. The cannon is worth more than all 3 of these backline minions, including like 1 melee thrown in. Really important to get by cannon. We should be looking for this. This is a timer where Ryze isn't here, he's dead. You have a timer to look for like a good control word. So we should be looking for a good control word, probably behind their red, maybe down like by their blue, somewhere that stops Kane from getting a good angle on you, or somewhere that helps Mordekaiser facilitate getting pressure. Yeah, it's just a free timer to get a word that we didn't play on. This isn't a timer to walk bot. You need to be setting up timers to roam. You don't get to like walk for free. As a mid laner, you need to be thinking about like, okay, how do I facilitate putting my wave in a state where I can roam?
Yeah, he's
right?
gonna crash this whole wave on you.
Yeah. So as a mid laner, it's really important to stack a wave, stack 2 waves, stack 3 waves, and then crash, and that gives you a roam timer. Or playing on your enemy's recall, staying and then getting a roam timer if they crash a wave and try and leave, force crashing it out and then moving on their recall timer. Things like that, right? We don't get to just walk for free. It's really bad to walk for free. It's pretty good. So like if we're thinking about like what we just did, right? There's no difference between what you just did and what you could have done before, except this time Ryze actually had mana, but he still couldn't even kill you, right? So if we just walked at him before, it was a lot better. We shouldn't be tanking the Rift Herald. If your team's forcing you to tank, you need to like walk away.
Yeah. Out of all of the people here, you have 30% HP.
We need to be helping with the kill and not hitting the Herald anymore. Thank you. We need to push mid wave. We cannot help with the Garen kill. We need to go push mid. That wave is 1.5 waves versus 1 wave. It's going to slow push into a stack, and you are missing all of the minions that your minions are killing. And Ryze is going to be back to catch it, and a better mid laner just freezes on you, and you are out of the game here. You need to be going to get that mid wave. You do not need to be here. And recalling here is even worse. But I mean, like at this point, you kind of have to. No, you should. You have to recall here. Like you have to. He has Rod of Ages into your components. You're 400 HP. There's no way to safely catch this wave. If you had recalled on the, if you had crashed that wave and then recalled instead of helping with the Herald, then you actually get back in time to do something here, right? That just looks a lot better for you in general.
Yeah, you definitely need to go home now. And he just
It's
gets
just,
plates. Like that
it's yeah, he's just getting plates
that's the
here. He's
way
just
it
getting
goes.
free. Yeah, he's just getting free everything. He eventually kills you here if you keep staying. But yeah, he just gets plates. Eventually, Kane, if Kane's smart, he just comes mid and kills you, right? Instead of going top. Especially because Dragon's coming up. If he comes mid and kills you, then they just get Dragon for free. But yeah, a better mid laner just kills you. Or, worse, freezes on you at the tower over there. And if he freezes that crashing wave on you, you're doomed. It's so doomed. He has Rod of Ages, you don't. He has a frozen wave on you. You're casted and you can't walk up because item disadvantage. If he freezes that wave on you while you're helping with Herald, that's just game over. Being down 60 CS is not how this matchup goes. I would say going even in this matchup means you're probably down about 15. But being down any more than that is definitely hard losing. The later you get Roa, the worse your champion is, right? It's a fine control word. We should go back mid here when we realize we're not needed. Yeah. You should not be starting Dragon. This is not your job. This is not your job. Please go back mid and catch the wave. You're taking a lot of damage on Dragon for no reason. You're going to lose mid tower because you did this Dragon. You could have cleared this wave. There's absolutely no reason to lose this mid tower here. Yeah, it's really, really bad. No reason to do that. It's never Kassadin's job to do the dragon. Your team's never going to need you to do the dragon. You don't add enough to the damage to even be there. You may as well not be there, which is why it's so bad, right? Should absolutely just be in the midway of catching that wave, preventing them from taking the mid lane tower, and getting farm and scaling so that you can buy Roa. Missing that cannon is awful. You had 2 abilities to use to guarantee it. Should make sure you're getting that cannon because we're 15 minutes in the game and you still don't have Roa, right? So by the time you get Roa, it's going to take until 30 minutes for it to stack, right? Which the longer it takes for you to scale, the bigger window you're giving the enemy team to snowball and end the game before you get to play. Which is the last thing Cassian wants, just as a champion. You want to be minimizing that window as much as possible, gathering as much gold and resources as you can as fast as possible so you can hit that spike as early as possible so that the enemy team has less time to try and play before they get outscaled. Should buy a control word here. I would buy a control word or I would buy a dark seal. Whichever one you feel like is better here. Definitely have an angle to look bot lane here. It's fine to look top 2 if you just want to catch the wave, but there's definitely a chance you look bot and see free kills here. You need to be looking on the map more. You only look at your own lane. There we go. See, if you had looked at that way earlier and started walking way earlier, these are actually just 2 free kills for you, right? Just be way more aware, because you kind of just walked around and did nothing in mid lane for 25 seconds, sort of debating if you wanted to go top or stay mid or do whatever. And that whole time, there was a bot angle where 2 people were at your bot tower where there could have just been a free roam. You can keep going here. Nice. You can play on him too.
Send him to the Shadow Realm.
We should go back and go mid. You need to go back and just push out this mid wave and look for this tier 1 mid tower. Roaming here is okay too, just because you're so ahead, but it's pretty flippy. Better teams aren't going to let you do this.
Mostly just want to pause at this point in the game because you guys
Yeah,
are real far ahead, but it has not been due to your input,
I would
right?
say at this stage, this game's definitely over. Like, just this is a stomp. I would say, arguably, you did. It's hard without making generalizations, but like, arguably, for the sake of casual context, you offered actually nothing to the team here, and at you were at best a null factor, and at worst the only thing handicapping them. The only way the enemy team has a path back into this game is if they continue to capitalize better on the lead that you gave up to Rise. So definitely a lot of things to work on in the lane phase. A lot of things to work on in terms of awareness, understanding where you need to be, understanding what your champion's allowed to do, the conditions required for you to facilitate certain things. Definitely just like sort of cross the board fundamentals in the lane phase.
It might actually be worth you going back, Spoon, to. I mean, this is kind of what we're focused on when it comes to our notes. Might be worth you going back to Showy Colt's reviews in bot lane. His first few, obviously, or they were on Jin, and it's a different lane and a different character, but really the same focus was what needed to be applied. To focus on your lane, the focus on where minions are, farming minions under tower, setting up your wave the way that you want it, making sure that you're there to catch it when it's going to hit you, and focusing pretty specifically on the wave and laning and farming, and then transitioning that into the rest of the game we'll get to, I think.
Yeah.
Those are in, just so you are aware, they're in the VOD review archive. I tend to ping in all of them a person if they had gotten something VOD reviewed, so should be able to look back and find the ones for Showy Cult. Same stuff is going to apply, but obviously with different abilities and a different champion. Same principles, though.
Yeah. Just understanding, what pressure do I have in this lane? What trades can I take in this lane? What do those trades facilitate? Make sure you're prioritizing getting cannons. You need to be prioritizing those cannons. Make sure that you understand when you can and when you can't move and communicate that. I'm sure there were some moments there where your duo was telling you like, "Oh, I need help, come help, come help," but you need to be able to tell him like, "I can't. I'm Cassidon. There's a midwave crashing. Like, I'm not coming to help you. I'm sorry. It's really bad." So being able to recognize those windows and communicate those is really important. Yeah, I would say definitely just like put more of a focus on getting CS, keeping up in CS and XP, knowing the trade patterns of the lane, how you're able to trade with the enemy champion, um, the reason you're doing those trades. Like I said, like queuing him, getting his HP a bit lower so you can, maybe facilitate like a better push or like a threat of an all-in or maybe jungle coming. And just understand what the win con of your champion is, right? Like we know you need to get row as early as possible, you need to get level 6 as early as possible, you need to get level 11 early as possible. So you should be prioritizing XP, prioritizing any sort of consistent gold income, and getting that row as early as possible.
Believe I'm muted. Huh, I just said a
Were you
whole
muted that
lot
whole
there,
time?
Spoon.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
god.
Thank you for telling me in chat. I appreciate that. Um,
Wow.
okay, well, you just watched me highlight just this over and over. Basically, watch pro VODs, watch pro Cassidy VODs, get an idea of how they handle matchups, how they're handling their early game, where they're posturing in lane, and then probably not something we need to be focused on just yet, but you'll notice how Cassidon plays into the mid and late game, has the ability to take side lane waves and to be able to 1v1 people just if they're keeping up with all of this macro focus. And this is really where I think you need to focus the most now is going to be this macro at the early game and late game and setting yourself up to late game from the early game. So focusing on getting CS, keeping up with the enemy CS, and focusing on your wave, catching it when it's going to be coming to you, shoving it in when you have a timing and can get it back, and focus on getting our Rod of Ages level 6 and level 11 as early as possible. That way that you're hitting power spikes as you need to.
Yep.
Any other
And
particular things you think we should be throwing in here, Sugi? I think that
uh
I would like to keep it pretty
nothing
basic.
yeah, nothing that needs to get thrown in there, but just Spoon if I said this in the previous thought as well, but the most important thing to do is ask why. Um, if you're watching those VODs and you're struggling to sort of see like if all of what they're doing feels too specific, or all of what they're doing feels too advanced, or all of what they're doing feels like you just don't really get how you're not doing this, um, ask yourself why, and do it about the most bare bone, fundamentally annoying things to ask why about. Um, I said last time, uh, when you're a little kid and you're asking why until it's to a point where it's just so annoying. Just do that to yourself when you're trying to improve. When you're watching those VODs, if they use a Q to trade, pause the video and ask yourself why, and just be an annoying analyst about it. Just ask, okay, what does this Q facilitate? Why would they use this here? Why would they trade this here? It's on cooldown now. What does it being on cooldown mean for what Rise is going to do with his next abilities? What does it not being on cooldown mean for what Rise is going to do with his abilities? Um, Ask why about everything like that, and try and take those little improvements, those little things into your next game, and see if you're able to apply them the same way. Because At first, it seems very simple. At first, it just seems like, oh, this guy's just crashing a wave, or oh, he's just doing this, or oh, he's just doing that. But you'll realize, oh, he's crashing this wave up specifically because he saw XYZ and he knew that would lead to ABC. And that means he gets to execute something on the other side of the map he wouldn't have been able to if he allowed that wave to just regular push, right? And you only get to see those things, and you only get to analyze and learn those things if you really start being annoying about asking the question why. So just as a sort of outside the notes tip, um, the most important question to ask about anything is why. Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? Why did it work? Why did it not work? And analyze and take those things into your next games.
I do kind of want to actually. I'm going to put that into homework for you, Spoon. Next time you come with a VOD and you submit it in VOD submissions, put some comments underneath with questions that you have from the game that you played. So if you were like, I feel like I am behind in this lane, and I don't know why I feel like I'm behind in this lane, or I don't know how to handle this particular scenario, I want you to come with some sort of questions that are like, why is my opponent behaving this way? Why? Oh man, I can't think of another particular one. Why is my farm low? Like, why am I not on par with the enemy in the lane? That sort of thing. Because if you can start to ask questions out of it, you'll be able to have answers specifically, and it'll show us that you're like trying to focus on particular aspects of the lane.
Yeah.
All right, those are VODs. We did it.
Yeah. Nice.
Thank you guys very much for bringing VODs in. I appreciate that varsity players are doing so. I think that it's important for, everybody to take a look at their gameplay, get some feedback, have some stuff to focus on for the future. So I do very much appreciate it. And thank you, Suki, for joining, helping me out with the VOD review.
Yeah, of course.
We are back tomorrow, 10 a.m. with Valorant. Which means that I might need to put in a Valvod for tomorrow. We will see. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I will see y'all tomorrow.